Well, it's been a while, and oh boy, what a subject to return to. It is safe to say that, people have been upset over this, and I can feel the tension between me and those who are still seeking for answers. I will just assume that most people are somewhat aware of this situation, but if you're not, let me give you a TLDR. And if you are completely unaware of where I've been and what has happened, consider this as a confession. At the end of 2023, I went through a tragic event in my life, and that is I lost my younger brother to suicide. One of the key factors to this was drug, rehabilitation issues, and the expectations that gave him too much pressure for him to deal with, which sadly made him crack. I and my family, we still mourn him till this very day. On the 21st of November 2023, just 4 days after my birthday, he sadly passed away because of severe brain damage after he attempted to hang himself. During this time, I did not know how to cope with this situation, and my fuse was cut short, leading to many mental breakdowns and me snapping very, very easily. With the facts in hand, I was really not fine. I tried bottling up my emotions and feelings, and talking about tragic events is something I really refrain from doing, even in front of my family and friends. Even with all of this, roughly 2 weeks later, I released my Warpaint tutorial with the Warpaint server alongside it, which probably wasn't the greatest of ideas, but the bills were due, so I just had to suck it up and keep working, especially when I said I would promise a Warpaint tutorial. This is the biggest mistake that I could have ever made, because 4 days later, I was reached out to by a person called Kel. And something to note right now. This person, Kel, is known for joining public Discord servers and getting in contact with higher-ups, mods, admins, and content creators to manipulate them with heaps amount of explicit conversations, despite some of them being actually adults. From the 5 people I have been talking to about this entire situation, we so far know that Kel is banned in at least 4 Hispanic TF2 Discord servers, and now mine and Cesti's and Warpaint server, which adds up to a total of 7 different servers for the same exact reason. Kel is somewhat infamous in the Hispanic side of the community, and they are most likely banned in more popular TF2 servers and Discord servers, which is why this person is starting to reach out to the English-speaking community, who are pretty unaware of who Kel is. In any case, me and Kel talked, starting from Warpaint help, life problems, trauma, and it escalated from there. They wanted explicit conversations, and I sadly gave in. I gave myself lazy excuses like the age of consent in Sweden is 15 years old, and the fact that it's all DMs and it's nothing IRL. It's harmless, right? With those lazy excuses in hand, it all quickly escalated to the point where I realized I didn't want to keep going. And I never felt comfortable with these conversations to begin with. And the constant thought at the back of my head that kept telling me no finally won. But when Kel realized that I wasn't gonna keep up with the explicit conversations, he blackmailed me and threatened me to continue. This led to me blocking them on the 5th of June 2024, and I reconsidered my life choices and started looking for actual work as a way to rehabilitate myself and act my age. I did get job practice, and it started a literal week after Kel published the document, which pretty much made it impossible for me to sit down and deal with this entire situation since I was working a 9 to 5, hence why I was responding so late, till now. I will say that in my country, the things that I did were not illegal, but morally are very much frowned upon. Everything I did was on impulse, and I did not think ahead about the consequences that I would face. The least I can do now is own up to what I did and change and grow as a person, and tell everyone the truth. I am so sorry for what I did and for people I have disappointed, and I've felt a great shame over the past year for my actions. During my job practice in November, I was sought out by a guy called Coldest Poot, who proceeded to call me innocent, which I heavily doubted. But after talking to Coldest, he shared many screenshots and documents that I couldn't believe were true, and my suspicions of Kel's true intentions and lies grew more, and I hope I can prove that to you as well. I reached out to Coldest Poot on the 4th of November 2024. Now, I know people will say that this guy has a pretty bad reputation in the Hispanic side of the community, and some people did let me know. One of them being that this guy takes gambling sponsors, which is, sure, fair. He's also been involved in other malicious activities. But unfortunately for those that hate me, I've never been a part of these affairs with this guy. However, he introduced me to some of Kel's victims as well as their compiled evidence, confirming the suspicions I have had ever since blocking Kel. From the documents that Coldest Poot has shown me, this guy likes jumping between the ages of 16 and 19. And many of these screenshots are also from one of Kel's alt accounts, which has been proven by checking the chat history inside of servers, matching the Steam profile link and the OC that they frequently show and use. Why this person made a new Discord account is beyond me, but one motivation might suggest that they're evading bans on those previously stated Discord servers. Another lead that I had is the value of their inventory. 3 different rings, multiple screenshots of valuable items like the fileteer, which requires you to buy a lot of map stamps, which can get expensive really quickly. And the gifting man from the gifting land, expensive Australiums and a vintage specialized killstreak sandwich, which was last priced at $300 and sold on the community market. On top of that, screenshots of energy orb unusual weapons, a discontinued unusual effect after the gunmetal update in 2015. Even a regular mercenary grade weapon in good quality with this effect will set you back hundreds of keys. Although none of this is concrete evidence of this guy's actual age, it is something worth pointing out due to how expensive these items really are. These are just speculations, but many of us think that these are gifts from victims, scammed items, and trade listings from their alt accounts. And while I will talk more about this later, it is nothing compared to what they've done to their victims. Kel's repeated manipulative actions have been documented, targeting both adults and underage victims. He makes it others' responsibility to make him feel happy inside of DMs, often threatening them with self-harm and suicide if he doesn't get enough attention. In one of the Hispanic servers, Serverlive, Kel was exposed by a previous victim who was 13 at the time and now he's 15. I tried contacting him, but he later told both me and Coldest Poot that he changed his mind, so he will remain anonymous. However, the 13-year-old made an alt account, joined the Serverlive server, and proceeded to leak a lot of screenshots of Kel talking to multiple minors in 2022. Remember that in 2 to 3 following months, Kel would admit that his age is 19. In many of these screenshots, Kel says a lot of predatory stuff to these minors, with a lot of them coming off as corrupt and pedophilic. Several of Kel's previous victims have come forward to saying that Kel lies about their age, sometimes being 19 and sometimes being 16. You know, the things that normal people do. Now this is a disclaimer for this next section, but I will go over some traumatic topics of discussion regarding some of the victims' experiences interacting with Kel. This includes underage victims, manipulation, and explicit imagery. Some people may find this section disturbing, so I will leave a timestamp for those who want to skip to the next part. You good? Alright, here we go. Kel has a habit of reaching out to anyone they see as vulnerable and asking for explicit images, including minors. Now, obviously this doesn't happen right away. He often starts the conversation with flirting and then proceeds with love bombing to give their targets a sense of importance and closeness. After enough time, Kel becomes very eager to send nudes, sometimes sending one without any warning, which was taken off of the internet. This leads to them pressuring the other victim over and over until they send pictures of their own, which, according to prior victims, is Kel's intentions with these conversations. Here are some screenshots of Kel talking to people who are between the ages of 15 and 16, and both of these people wants to remain anonymous as well. 2 of these people were in the same friend group, and Kel jumped back and forth between both of them on different occasions. It started when Kel began dating a guy he met on a Turbine server. Kel then later asked him for an invite to his private Discord server, the same thing he did with me, except he never gave up on it. He also went out of his way to be hostile towards one of the mods in that server, which he knew had gone through a breakup with the server owner because it was publicly known. Weirdly enough, Kel apologized to the mod for his hostile actions inside of DMs, and then proceeded to flirt with her. The literal next day, he said to her that, and I quote, that he's bored and wants to fuck to someone he's publicly hated. Later on, Kel invites his girl to an open relationship with his boyfriend, and it would be here that Kel was very open to sending and sharing nudes, often referencing them and distributing them between the two, making these conversations very, very lewd. He later on threatened them with both self-harm and suicide, harassing both of them inside of DMs for not giving him enough attention, while also constantly following them into TF2 servers. Kel made his happiness their responsibility. For an adult is annoying, but for teenagers, especially inside of a relationship, is just too much, with both of them leaving Kel after just a month. Kel started to publicly hate this girl again and harassed his now ex-boyfriend to break up with her continuously, meaning that the talk and relations Kel had with this girl before and this guy meant absolutely nothing, and was all just fake just to fulfill Kel's sexual and egotistical desires. And obviously my experience with this is extremely different since I am an adult. But when you threaten actual kids or teenagers with suicide and make them feel responsible for your feelings is more fucked up than anything. And remember, emotional manipulation is a very common grooming tactic. The most recent teenager who has been a victim of Kel is Lydia in April last year. Keep in mind, me and Kel were talking at this point. Lydia and Kel met on a casual versus Saxton Hale server, and they quickly became friends. And it didn't take long before Kel started making some overly loving remarks to Lydia, saying that he loved her out of nowhere. He would then proceed to warn Lydia about his past victims, the two we had just gone over, saying that both of them had, and I quote, screwed her up. And this line alone tells me what Kel did to both of them meant absolutely nothing. There are no regrets, remorse, sympathy, or any second thoughts about what he did. In Kel's mind, it is all their fault as to why he feels like shit. There is zero self-reflection. Kel didn't make it clear to Lydia what happened between them. Rather, they insisted that Lydia would just keep clear from these people. Lydia has told me that during this time, she was going through family issues and she did talk to Kel about it, similar to how I did. Which is why Kel kept talking to her and why things quickly went the way they did. Over multiple instances, Kel was very explicit with this girl, asking her for pictures. And when Kel asked Lydia to quote-unquote show a little, she gave him what he wanted. And not only that, but Kel stated very clearly what he did with these images, which made Lydia very uncomfortable. Due to how fast things were moving between the two, it wasn't long before Lydia got suspicious and started to lean away from Kel. She was then contacted by a friend who talked to her about their experience with Kel themselves, introducing her to some of Kel's other previous victims, and she was quickly pulled out before things got real bad. I have come to learn that Kel has targets, primarily targeting community figures, content creators, mods, admins, or anyone in position of power within Discord servers and TF2 servers. This is because they would have much more to lose than Kel would. This is where guilt tripping and blackmailing can be amplified, which in return gives Kel leverage in the conversation. Someone with that kind of power would attract negative attention when a quote-unquote minor was having explicit conversations, trapping them into this toxic manipulation like how I went through. Sometimes these targets are underage, but no matter the age, these sorts of manipulation methods works on everyone. The effects they have on those below 18 just work even easier, due to their inexperience. Now, directly after I blocked Kel and prepared the document, I found out that they engaged in some pretty weird conversations with Ellie, a good friend of mine who has been in many videos. Now what's ironic in this is that they called me out for grooming to Ellie, but in the same conversation, they tried engaging in more explicit conversations with Ellie themselves. And Ellie leaned away from that, but a lot of things intensified when Ellie mentioned her breakup with her ex, leading to me to believe that this was a go-ahead for Kel to bait Ellie into the same situation as me, with suicide being included for sympathy points. Kel knew that Ellie was an admin inside of my private server, and a mod inside of my Warpaint server. Ellie also has a YouTube channel of her own, and she appears in many of my videos. And if we account for Kel's previous victims, we can see that Ellie fits the criteria Kel will look for in a target. Kel also went after Sister Jesus, and I was there when Kel purchased their way into Sesti's private server through his Patreon, and I've told Sesti what I've been through with this person, saying that this person is underage and delves into people's DMs and tries to get them into trouble or outright manipulate them. Sesti and many of the mods there did not hesitate to ban this guy. However, Sesti accepted a ring from Kel long before this entire shit show happened, and Sesti said, and I quote, "They first added me on Steam for feedback on Warpaint. Didn't talk with them much beyond that. Then they approached me saying that they would give me a ring and that we could name it whatever we wanted for a joke. The Shud has accepted that it's over, was decided on, period." Now while that name is funny, Sesti knew, however, something fishy was going on with this person, with the fact that Kel said to him, and I quote, "Now I can say I'm married to Sister Jesus," after he accepted a ring. And then the suspicion piled on when I told Sesti about my experience with Kel when he joined the server. He kept Kel added on Steam to talk about my situation. Kel, however, didn't want to talk about it and reluctantly said I know what I did to stay on good terms. Sesti still figured that there was more going on due to the answer being so vague from Kel compared to what I told him. And after Kel released the document, Sesti confronted them and even asked why. But Kel, similar to his document, was very vague with their response as well. You might as well talk to a brick wall. He later blocked them since the situation about me and Kel was out in the open. What I find interesting is, according to publicly available information, Sesti himself was a prime target for Kel. He's openly been seen talking about his dating experiences on stream, he's been doxxed on multiple occasions, and he's had high value items for years. And he is both controversial and a YouTuber. This means that any dirt Kel could get pinned on him would result in a costly high amount of hush money, or just a prime target for manipulation as a whole. It's a similar situation to Ellie's, where Sesti knew this person was trouble and thankfully brushed off everything Kel said to him. Now the reason why I blocked Kel in June is because they threatened me to talk to them sexually. I did it before, and I stopped because I never really felt comfortable doing so to begin with. I always had that thought at the back of my head that kept telling me what I was doing was wrong, but I was stupid enough to do it anyway, and trust Kel in what they said and bent my moral compass enough for them to get what they wanted out of me, which was this explicit talk all along. But when they noticed that I stopped completely and grew cold, they threatened me. Kel said to me that he talked to one of my friends about our conversation and let me know about it so he could gain leverage in our conversation. And this was the final nail in the coffin for me. I realized I had two choices. Continue what I was doing with this person and quote-unquote give them what they wanted, which we all know what that implies, or break contact and face the consequences. So I blocked them, and I gave them this final message, and I talked to my closest friends about it, and they all gave me a fat earful. And 4 months later, Kel released the document, and spun this whole thing around to make it seem that I was a predator, and this was their plan all along, which is a complete fucking lie after what we just uncovered here. And this is why I don't consider this as grooming, as this person implies it to be. This person wanted nudes out of me, and they got upset when I didn't give them any. They got upset when they didn't get to be in a relationship with me, pursuing me with that question for hours while I was under the influence of alcohol. And here they wanted more explicit conversations out of me, and the only reason why they got it in the first place was because they caught me in a really horrible spot. They got what they wanted, and when I stopped, they blackmailed me. So that is why I blocked them and wrote the document, having it prepared in a situation like this. The evidence clearly shows that I was not grooming Kel. Rather, I was a target for Kel's manipulation. Under normal circumstances, no sane person would react in this way. Kel wanted this to happen all along, using the to catch a predator excuse to put themselves into a situation most would see as righteous when in reality it was entrapment. All of this and other people's experiences is why I and many people suspect that Kel might not be 16. But that's for you to conclude. Since many of these situations and manipulation tactics are common ground for actual predators. Even if Kel was 16, all of this is beyond fucked and still predatory. And pulling the I'm a minor card does not excuse any of this. And thankfully, more people do see this grey area of this entire situation. Call me a weirdo or a dumbass all you want, but calling me a pedophile or a groomer is flat out wrong. Now I don't know about you, but I don't go around flirting with adults and having explicit conversations with adults as a minor, and then pulling the victim card whenever the conversation doesn't go my way. Kel is, if not already, an adult, or quickly en route to becoming one, and they should know that their actions are inexcusable no matter their age. This is no longer about what they've done to me. This is about the people knowing that they are not Chris Hansen, but in fact a predator themselves. They're using that pretense of to catch a predator, to excuse themselves into these situations to target those in unfortunate situations. Hence why Kel was very eager to send nudes or share nudes with me when we were talking, but I constantly rejected it. And I will say that it's pretty fucking weird when I reject the invitation of me sending a picture of my cock to a 16-year-old at one point, and they get upset with me for almost an entire day and then forced me to apologize for their shitty mood at the end of it. You cannot make this up. These examples are just from me and my friends that I know. Imagine the number of adults or minors who have been approached by Kel the same way, because based on their previous records, I highly doubt that these are just coincidences. And this is some sick manipulation tactic Kel resorts to for personal gain with random people. Now for Kel's document. What a shit show. I mean, truth be told, these screenshots are real. However, they have been cherry-picked, so I look like a full-blown pervert. But as my document proved, there's much more to this entire situation than what people realize. First off, this comes off as clickbait, some sort of forced YouTube drama. And this guy acts like he's some sort of Chris Hansen messiah, both in the document and in the comments underneath the tweet itself. But we all know this ain't true. The thing is, Chris Hansen and On How to Catch a Predator, it is usually adult in the conversation with the victim that tries to manipulate them, not the other way around. And it's usually the adult who leads the conversation and usually leads it to benefit their sexual desires. I only engaged with these conversations. I didn't push them, nor did I see any sort of hesitation from Kel when it came to exchanging literal fucking nudes. And it's usually adult in the conversation who threatens the victim or the minor and manipulates them. Something I never tried doing, but based on my experience with Kel, the constant encouragement, lies, guilt-tripping and blackmail are all the same with other people's experiences as we've gone through. Kel is the true predator. Kel then proceeds to say, and I quote, "All I wanted to do was gather more evidence regarding him and his actions." This is Kel's way of saying that all the things he did were justified, even though he's basically admitting to entrapment, which means none of this would ever happen if he didn't go out of his way to contact me. Kel then proceeds to post cherry-picked screenshots. Many of them were of me when I was intoxicated, which he knew before these messages. They're also out of chronological order, so no story or experience is being told here. Many of them also do not contain any sort of input from Kel. What's ironic in all of this is that within the same conversation of me being drunk, Kel didn't mention his actions, one of which was him asking me to send nudes again, and another where he began pushing me to start a relationship with him while I was under the influence of alcohol. That conversation was held for 3 hours till midnight, and he begged me to say yes even though I said no, and tried manipulating me here, saying that he wouldn't tell anyone. Entrapment is usually a defense for the criminal, similar to framing, and this alone proves what Kel did is more than wrong. But of course, they took the best piece of the conversation to frame me as a complete degenerate. What are Kel's reasonings for targeting people that they do? Why are the people they've done this to have documents displaying Kel using the same compliant and instigating tone towards inappropriate conversations? I am of the belief that many of Kel's victims would have never had these claims brought against them if they had never experienced emotional trauma, been in a position of authority, or had any means of fattening Kel's wallet to begin with. The actions Kel has taken were never meant to catch a predator, but rather the notion of to catch a predator has people writing off their actions as heroic instead of the self-serving manipulation that it actually is. And this gift part is laughably the worst argument against me, and something that raised more suspicion to Kel than anything else. Other than the fact that, why were you soliciting nudes from YouTubers to begin with? But other than that, I did cover this briefly a bit ago, but let's go into more detail. Now this goes without saying, all of this is just speculation and none of this is pure evidence. But it is very suspicious and worth mentioning, since this account was made when Kel was 13 to 14 years old, if we're going off his actual age that he confirmed in his document. Kel stated the stuff I gave them is worth around $70+, which is just false. And even if it was, this is largely pocket change for both me and Kel, since they themselves have a pretty sizable inventory for someone who's supposedly 14 to 16 years old, especially when they live in a third world country where their economy just crashed somewhat 2 years ago. Kel also has a huge value spike in their inventory on backpack.tef, with upwards of 600 keys or around $1,000 at the age of 14. Kel mentioned in their pastebin, which is now gone for some reason, that they used to have a pretty sizable inventory, but for someone who was 14 at the time, shouldn't have that kind of money. And most of it was given away as donation and gifts. But then they contradict themselves, saying that they didn't get this money from their parents, nor did they have a job. So my question is, where the fuck did the money come from to begin with? Were they gambling winnings? People may say that Kel may be a trader, but a trader today sucks if you don't have any rare valuable items to begin with. Like one of one unusuals with sawed-off after effects like Frostbite, Pumpkin Moon or Morning Glory, or strange factory new unusual skins. Since you're competing with bots who will always undercut you to the brink of quick sell with regular items. This is also with the expectation of you as a 14 to 16 year old to have any idea what the basic knowledge of supply and demand is, or any sort of market background to begin with. Also take into account how TF2 trading works in general, as well as inside knowledge on TF2's discontinued series, hats, effects, and what's easily decided by the community and what's not, in order to make profit quickly. This huge spike was made over a 2 to 3 week period, which for even an experienced trader is fucking impossible to achieve from literally nothing. Even if all of this was true, why would Kel suggest that these items that I gave him are worth around $70 when they're clearly not, when they're easily worth half the price if not less? It's just weird and dishonest if this guy was a trader, because why would he lie? My primary suspicion is that this guy's enormous inventory value is from pure scams or catfish scams. The previous evidence of me and Cesty somewhat shows that he could be after items. When I was 13 to 16 years old, my inventory was nowhere their size, and it was pretty stagnant until I started my YouTube channel when I had some sort of income on my own and still lived with my parents. Before that, I only had my monthly allowance. The weird spikes I have on mine are when I got API scammed back in 2020, and then in 2023 when I borrowed my friend Evia's unusual team captain, which was even shown in one of my videos. I have also been a degenerate gambler, but I've never gambled to such a degree where I would win over $1,000 and then lose it all within a month at the age of fucking 14. What Kel means with this argument is that this is some sort of intentional grooming tactic done by me, which is entirely untrue. The reason why I gave Kel those items was because it was their birthday and a Christmas present, which they kept begging me for an entire week, by the way. The items I gave Kel are roughly around 30 to 35 euros if you manage to find buyers via trading. The unusual Firestalker has the Fireflies effect, which I didn't use anymore at the time, so I didn't go out of my way to get it for Kel, is 20 euros. The strange minimal wear specialized killstreak coffin nail minigun is 15 euros, or close to that range anyway when I bought it. And a strange blue Mune knife, which is field tested, so good luck selling that for pure. All of this is a sizable chunk, but considering that this guy has 3 rings that can only be purchased throughout the Manco store, since they're not tradable, meaning that this guy had to cash out over $300 somehow. Also, take into account the items I mentioned earlier in his screenshots. He also made me sign his collector sandwich, which may now be locked away in an alt or traded away, but it is worth pointing out, because this shows that this is pocket change for this fucking guy. Something off topic but still worth mentioning, but the number of pornographic objectors this guy has, which now only the not safe for work ones have been wiped when I scripted this part, and the share on top, which is this line in his document, makes me heavily doubt not only this guy's age, but also his intentions and that he was groomed in any way, shape or form. And some people would probably agree. Something also worth mentioning, but one of Kel's rings belongs to Fat Magic, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kel had some weird conversations with him as well as his staff inside of his Discord server.
Yeah, didn't you get banned from Fat Magic's Discord server after you blocked Kel? And then they say like, yeah, I got banned. Wow, oh my fucking god. Yeah, you were banned in Fat Magic's domain, participation in harassment of a member. This is insane! And Fat Magic is like so unaware of this. I don't blame him because who the fuck cares? Check
Oh,
There it is.
hey, there you fucking go.
Is that wait? So that's Fat Magic's profile. Yeah, it is. Oh
That is Fat Magic.
Yes, we're
and that
making
is,
shit.
the ring. That is the ring of Dreamer.
Steam archive. Here we go. Put in the URL.
Yeah.
It's gonna wake up Dreamer here. Yeah,
holy
there
shit,
it is. There it is. Yeah, this guy changes his names a lot. But we can. But yeah, we can go into the
I can find the
inventory.
ring, so it's a length something.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
And speaking of Discord, this guy recently changed his Discord handle as well. Is it a way for people to not easily track him? Is it to avoid confrontation with people they've manipulated before? All of this is entirely left up to the individual to speculate on, and I cannot conclude it for people. But as of right now, this guy is a mod inside of Fat Magic's public Discord server, and recently banned a member from one of the Hispanic servers because they blocked Kel. Nice. Now, before you do anything rash, I did contact the moderators and admins inside of Fat Magic's Discord server, and I showed them all of the evidence me and Coldest Poot have gathered, and they hastily concluded to ban Kel from that server, because they were also essentially just lied to, where Kel did not talk about his past at all, and lied his way to that position of authority which he knew they would never give him if they knew about Kel's history. And I recommend people do the same thing, and block this person and get him out of your server ASAP, because he's a problem not for only just adults, but to minors as well, for the reasons we have just gone over. Not only is this entire document that Kel made blatant slander, but is very dishonest to not only me, but to the readers as well. It proves that this person cannot be trusted to who they say they are. And they are certainly no fucking Chris Hansen based on their previous actions with my adult friends and then teenagers who were easy pickings for Kel's manipulation. I'm sorry for this long tangent, but constructing this reasonably sized script while puzzling all of the pieces together in chronological order is such a major task on its own, and I continue to find more and more flaws in Kel's bullshit made-up story and intentions in an attempt to deplatform me as a content creator and make my social life hell. Despite all of this, everything that I've said, none of it changes the past. There should have never been an instance of me messaging a person in this way, someone who's underage on an international level. And even if they were legal in Sweden, it is still very much frowned upon for obvious fucking reasons. I deeply apologize for my actions, and words cannot describe the shame I have felt for the past year or so, even before any of this reached the public. I do not seek any kind of sympathy. I'm just here to explain everything to the best of my capabilities and show you guys everything that has happened and how we got here. However, calling it pure pedophilia or grooming is flat out wrong, based on the context I've shown in this entire video. But I did know their age before all of this, and that alone should have been a cue for me to get out, but I didn't. I was such in a desperate spot in my life that I entrusted my feelings and trauma to another person on the internet. I had my guard down, and I quickly dug my own grave, and I wish none of this ever happened. But what I will say, I believe Kel, though, hasn't learned any valuable lessons from any of this, or anything from the past. The amount of people this guy has left with regrets or trauma is too little to ignore. The fact I was reached out to by a Hispanic YouTuber who recognized this so-called victim should probably say it all. Even if this Kel guy is below the age of 18, they will turn 18 in less than 3 months or so in 2025, based on my interactions with this guy. And with the lack of discipline and backlash, they will sure as hell continue with this predatory behavior inside of the community. And it's a matter of time before this guy preys on actual minors as they've done before. This is also with the assumption that this guy is underage, despite the countless flaws in their history and lies that might suggest that they are in the same age range as me. Since many of these conversations, even those that date back to 2022, seems to be heavily one-sided. And that Kel didn't value the actual feelings of their victims and just manipulated them till they had enough. But that's for you to conclude. I'm not saying that I'm innocent because of this, but I want people to understand to be a bit more open-minded when it comes to these situations, and some are. And place a bit more pressure onto the underages who quickly pull out the I'm a minor card whenever shit doesn't go their way with an adult. And it certainly doesn't help when you, Kel, who quote-unquote exposed me have drama surrounding yourself. And what I said to you wasn't a threat, but a defense or a warning to make you realize what you have done isn't right from a legal standpoint either. I was hoping that you would have some sort of fucking self-reflection or awareness and take some responsibility for your actions regardless of your age. This point it now even stands stronger, since you have done so much in the past that a person with the right mindset would look back with some fucking remorse. And all the victims I've talked to deem you as a complete fucking psycho. I knew the court of public opinion would be mixed to some degree, but you got what you wanted, and I'm not gonna let this stain me of who I am. And it certainly doesn't help when you call yourself incoming Kelnuke on both Steam and Twitter on the same date you release the document, and turn off the comments on the initial tweet itself and your Steam profile to avoid people doubting your true intentions. And now I will close this page of my life forever. Goodbye.